Well, hello again, my old friend. It's your old pal B-sox, and joining me on the line once again, he is from Cinemablend.com. He talks about movies and such. It's Mike Reyes. Hey, Mike, what's going on?
Just your old pal Mike Reyes over here from Cinemablend.com. I'm doing well. How about you, man?
I'm hanging in there. So another week, another set of movies coming out. We've got a lot more like trailers and kind of weird stuff to talk about, so we'll get to that here in a minute. Of course, 2 movies coming out this weekend. We are going to do some time traveling here. The big one is obviously Scream 6, right?
Yeah. I mean, you know, when you've got a legendary horror franchise that's been going since the 90s on sort of an on and off basis, yeah, it's kind of a big deal when you get to episode 6.
No.
And in time for Oscar weekend as well.
Oh, yeah, I guess we could talk about the Oscars at the end of this as well. So, oh, and Chris Rock, since we're talking about that.
Oh, yes. How could we have possibly forgotten that?
So, well, you know, it is what it is. So, if you're here for the Scream 6 stuff, we'll talk about that here at the end. Stick around. Meanwhile, one of the movies coming out this weekend, Adam Driver is a part of it. 65 Million is the name of it, right?
65.
Oh, 65. I thought it was 65 million.
Nope, 65.
Really? Did they change that at some point?
Okay, so let's just go on a little. Join us, folks, for a small rant here, because a small diversion, not so much a rant, but yeah, it is called 65, but in all the commercials they put like million years ago, because they kind of have to flesh out that, this is supposed to be something involving Adam Driver and dinosaurs.
Yeah.
However, Adam Driver in recent interviews is like, this isn't a time travel movie. We're not going 65 million years into the past. It's apparently a parallel Earth that apparently he's crossed over into with these other passengers, because it looks like they're like a colony ship where there's other passengers on the craft with him, where he crash lands and, oh my God, it was Earth all along, but it's apparently another Earth. Your guess is as good as mine. I don't know why they are releasing this the same weekend as Scream 6, and why they have not done too much with the promo screenings. Like I actually didn't get an invite to this one.
I like Adam Driver when he does stuff like this military-wise, because he has the training so he can make it look real.
Oh yeah. I mean, in case anybody's forgotten, Adam Driver was a Marine.
You just said something that made me wonder, is this going to be like a Planet of the Apes twist at the end?
Well, it already sounds like it's a Planet of the Apes sort of twist, where it's that mixed with timeline. Because it's like, oh, it's not going back in the past, it's shifting parallel to another universe that is at that point in time.
Yeah, wasn't Timeline the one where they went back and they were on like the gold, like they'd go back in time, they had to stay on the trail they were on, and they got to kill a T-Rex, and it would die in the same place regardless. And then someone stepped on a plant or something and it changed everything.
No, that's Sound of Thunder.
Is it really?
Sound of Thunder is the one that's the flop based off of a Ray Bradbury novel where, they have to hunt on the path. Otherwise, they step on a butterfly, everything, goes.
Okay. Sure. The one you're talking about is Paul Walker.
Yeah. It's the Michael Crichton adaptation where like they go to medieval France, but it's not going back in time. It's supposed to be you're shifting into a parallel dimension where at that point in time.
Okay. All right. I was wrong. I apologize, everybody.
Ivan, my editor friend, found out that he had a screening, but it was 9:00 tomorrow. It's 9:00 the morning of release date, like the Thursday.
Yeah.
Like 9:00 Thursday morning. And we were all sort of talking about this and scratching our heads like, why would they do that? And I'm thinking they want to get this movie out because the quicker it goes out, the quicker it goes to Netflix, because Sony has a deal with Netflix.
Okay.
So I'm assuming this movie goes straight to Netflix once it's time to go to like the TV premiere window. So this is, which ties into something you and I have been talking about lately. This may become one of those movies where it doesn't do anything at the box office, but then you go to Netflix and it's like, oh, I wanted to see that.
Yeah.
And people watch and it's like, not bad.
And then next thing you know, it's number 1.
Oh yeah, the RIPD effect. I still can't believe that's number 1 on Netflix.
It's weird, right? The Ryan Reynolds and Jeff Bridges movie, right?
Yeah. Oh,
have you seen it?
In theaters. I saw it in theaters because I was going to see it in 3D. I was kind of excited about the concept. I just love Jeff Bridges.
Yeah, he's wonderful. But anyways, Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com joining me on the line right now. This week, there's been an interesting week for some stuff kind of like hitting the web. New Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies coming out. It's being done by Seth Rogen. And very, very interesting animation style on this.
Oh, yeah. I obviously, there's parallels to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, but there's also a little bit of Mitchell's versus the Machines in there. And I think there's members of both teams involved in this movie, so that makes a lot of sense. But especially with, I think it was Donatello's character design, kind of looks like the girl from Mitchell's versus the Machines, like right down to the glasses and like the shape of the eyes.
It looks cool.
It does look cool. I really haven't done anything Turtles wise since I was a kid because I was into those like that first trilogy of live action movies, and I haven't really gone back since. But this trailer actually looked. I would go see this. I would definitely go see this. And I'm hoping they do this in 3D because it looks ready. But there's an amazing cast. And like you said, Seth Rogen is one of the producers behind this. He's also playing Bebop to John Cena's Rocksteady. So if you need anything to sell you on this movie besides the fact that you've got like Hannibal Buress, Rose Byrne, Paul Rudd, Maya Rudolph, Giancarlo Esposito, among others in this cast, you've got Seth Rogen and John Cena as Bebop and Rocksteady. How that doesn't steal the movie, I don't know. And also Jackie Chan as Master Splinter.
By the way, John Cena related news, his appearance on WWE Monday Night Raw this week was pretty outstanding.
I did not see that, but that's pretty awesome.
He showed up, and there was some jokes about the last time he wrestled. It looked like he was going bald in the back a little bit. And the guy they're setting him up against his name's Austin Theory, and they're doing a back and forth. And he said something about being bald, and John said something to the effect of, I'd rather be going bald than them have to pipe in crowd noise when I wrestle.
Oh.
Yeah, it was cold, but...
Shots fired.
But go back to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. I think it looks cool. I think it looks like it'll be a fun Ninja Turtles movie where it finally feels like they're kids. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like even going back to those other movies, that was very much you're playing for the PG-13 sort of sweet spot where kids could enjoy it, but there was very much stuff for adults, stuff for grown kids. Like this is actually teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah. Did I read it or see it on TikTok this week? It was somebody had a breakdown of what the TMNT movie, which I really enjoyed that movie. We saw that in theaters, and I loved it.
Oh, yeah. That's the computer animated one where they had, I think it was Sarah Michelle Gellar was April O'Neil.
Yeah.
Chris Evans was Casey Jones, and then Patrick Stewart was the villain.
Yeah. It was wonderful. It was a great movie. But anyways, I saw something that what the story for the sequel to that was going to be.
Oh, what was that?
And again, I don't remember where I saw it. It was either on TikTok or like a YouTube short or something like that, or an article. It was a video. I know that. But they said that it was going to be a thing where Raphael, Leonardo, Donatello, and Splinter were all going to be unmutified or unmutagened or whatever, and Michelangelo was only going to be the only one still there.
Okay, so you want to, all right, based on my limited knowledge of what's gone on with the Ninja Turtles, that excites me for one reason. Wasn't Michelangelo the last Ronin?
Yes.
In that set, that there was like a recent comic where everyone else had died and he was sort of like carrying on the quest of vengeance. That excites me because I don't know if that was around the time that arc sort of started to hatch because I don't really know the timeline perfectly, but that's really cool that sort of idea.
I'm sorry, I know what it was. It was a poster. It was a poster in a video, and they said that was going to be the story because you even saw the helmet of the Shredder in the background a little bit.
I love that idea, and it just because out of all of the Turtles, Michelangelo was the one that was always the class clown and sort of the immature one. So forcing him to grow up like that is obvious. That's obviously a move that anyone would want to make with that story if they had their hands on it. And that's really cool that was the angle.
Anyways, Mutant Mayhem.
I'm excited for Turtles, man.
I am too. When's that supposed to be coming out? August this year.
That is out in August. Yeah.
I'll be taking Jace to that. And you know what? I might even take the wife to it because she's a big Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fan. So
Yeah. Oh, man. I can't wait for it.
One of the other trailers we got, and it's not really a big name trailer by any stretch, but it just looked like fun because there's some role reversal in there. But Chris Evans, he's got a new movie coming out. I believe it's in April, if I remember the trailer right, but it's called Ghosted. And long story short, it's Chris Evans gets ghosted by a lady that he has some relations with, and he tries to hunt her down, and then things go sideways when he finds out she's in the CIA.
Yeah, and that lady happens to be played by Ana de Armas, who Chris Evans has worked with before in Knives Out, as well as Netflix's The Gray Man, although they weren't as paired off in that one as Knives Out. This is their third movie together, and it will be going to Apple TV Plus, streaming on April 21st, if I remember correctly. Yeah, this looks absolutely hysterical. You've got Chris Evans playing the lovesick lead who wants to show a grand gesture of romance and chase after this girl that he loves. And then he gets roped into espionage hijinks. And at one point it looks like a revolving restaurant goes out of control.
Yeah.
And I want to see that.
It looks good. I like seeing him do things because, I mean, he's done so much with the Steve Rogers and Captain America stuff. It's fun to see him do some of this other stuff because he's so good at it.
Oh, yeah. I think we've gotten to a point now where people recognize him more for Cap than for any other romantic comedies or other comedies that he did prior to that. And not to mention him playing just anything from a villainous type to just sarcastic, lovable dude.
Yeah.
And now to see him go back to that and to go back to wearing facial hair, it's like he's sort of re-embracing his previous career. And I would say this is a pretty big name thing because people have been following this quite intensely because of the fact that, it's him and Ana de Armas in this big action movie. Oh, it's going to streaming. But it just looks like a total blast, and I can't wait to see this.
Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com on the line with me right now. So that kind of does it for the trailers we saw this week. I mean, it's Wednesday. There could be more coming out, but who knows at this point. Want to touch on a couple other things before we get to that Scream 6 part. History of the World Part 2. Yay or nay on this?
Yay. 1,000 times yay, and I'm kind of surprised. Well, I'm not that surprised, but I'm still kind of saddened that I've seen reactions that say, oh, this is horrible. I shut it off in the middle of the first episode. I shut it off when I saw X was involved, like whatever star you want to bring in.
Yeah.
All I can say is this was never going to be a soup to nuts Mel Brooks production. That was never going to happen. He's clearly in a point right now where he's reflecting on his career more than adding to his resume. And obviously he's the narrator, he's a producer, he's a writer. He's giving guidance to this thing without controlling it. In fact, the three forces that I know of that are controlling it, or at least the three that everyone's been talking about, are Ike Barinholtz, Wanda Sykes, and why am I blanking on Nick Kroll.
Yeah.
They're the three that are doing the heavy lifting in terms of producing and starring. This is the spirit of History of the World Part 1. The spirit is nailed. It is just comedic vignettes going through all sorts of points of time. The cast that they pull into here. Have you watched any of it?
I've watched the first one that came out, and we're about halfway through the second one.
Okay, so minor spoilers for anybody who wants to go in not knowing what comes up, and I suggest that highly because the bit I'm about to mention took me by surprise. Jack Rasp. Johnny Knoxville. You've seen it, right? Please tell me you've seen that.
Yes.
Johnny Knoxville and the Jackass group reenacting Deaths of Rasputin. Theme music and everything. That is one of my favorites. I think episode 2 has Curb Your Judaism, which is basically Judas' story told as if it's Curb Your Enthusiasm, where Nick Kroll's playing a Larry David-style Judas. They've got J.B. Smoove, who's also on Curb Your Enthusiasm. They got Richard Kind in there, too. There's just such inspired... such inspired bits here.
You go from something like that to the D-Day, the everybody getting the Rasputin stuff. I don't know why, but I was laughing my ass off at Abe Lincoln. Oh, I'm a tall man. I'm a tall boy.
love that.
I don't know why, but
Business.
it was funny.
See, the thing that I love about this is one of the minor points that came up when I was first watching it is I kind of wished for another History of the World Part 2 movie because I liked how there were vignettes, but there was also longer stories that played out in the movie. But after watching the first 2 nights, this is a 4-night event that concludes on Thursday. So by the time you hear us, you'll be able to watch all 8 half hours on Hulu. I love the fact that they are allowed to break up the stories, that the stories can be told over a longer time. There's even greater roster of guest stars and jokes. There's wonderful references to Mel Brooks movies in here.
Yeah.
And the 2 big ones I've seen are in that whole Civil War thing. They go to Rock Ridge, West Virginia, and there's a sign right in the town that says Rock Ridge, not that Rock Ridge.
Yeah.
Just nice tip of the hat to Blazing Saddles. And then there's a Russian Revolution segment that includes a deep cut from the producers. The original 1969 movie, which was, Mel Brooks' first movie.
Yeah.
But I'm watching this thing. I'm already laughing in hysterics. And then that happens, and I was just pushed over. I've been howling with every episode, howling with laughter. And I've just had, even with like the jokes that aren't as laugh out loud, but still pretty funny, it's not wearing itself thin.
No.
It's not pushing anything past the point of overstaying its welcome. And I think it's the brevity and the variety of bits that are really helping. Finally seeing Hitler on Ice done. Like, finally seeing that realized. And I think it was done in such a, not only did they use some of the original footage, but then the payoff for the whole thing, where you see the broadcasters just reading off the scores like, that's a you from Poland. And it's like, well, they're going back to the bunker.
And France gives them a 10.
They're busting Hitler's chops, and then they go into the whole Mussolini joke.
It's well done.
I don't know for certain, but I think Jews in Space is going to be one of the last bits. And I'm hoping they still do a Viking funeral, because those were the 3 bits they promised at the end of History of the World Part 1. It was Hitler on Ice, Jews in Space, and the Viking funeral. Viking funeral is the only one I don't know will happen, but it looks like Sarah Silverman's part of the Jews in Space thing. Like, I've seen clips in the previews that look like that's where they're going.
There you go. Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com joining me on the line to talk about movies and TVs and such. We still got the Scream 6 stuff coming up here shortly. Before we get to it, I want to touch on The Last of Us, because that show just keeps hitting bullseyes on its different episodes that have come out. And this last week was so good.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. I mean, for the past couple episodes, it's really become Ellie's show.
Yeah.
Like, you could make an argument that it was, for the most part, both of their shows, but really more focusing on Joel and his decisions. But obviously, since the things that happened a couple episodes ago, since he got stabbed at the end of that episode,
yeah,
we've seen Ellie caring for Joel, flashing back into her life and seeing her first, when she got bit and her first big heartbreak in life.
Yeah.
And now we see her trying to protect Joel tooth and nail, and getting into a situation where she massacres someone who totally deserves it. And watching that is just, it's satisfying, but at the same time, it almost feels like a warning of, okay, this is sort of a point of no return for this young girl. Like, from this point on, childhood and any sort of innocence and carefree life has just gone out the window.
You know what I didn't realize until I heard it later?
What?
That the voice of Joel is in this episode?
Yes, I did. I saw that. And they had said that he was going to be in there to begin with. And that just leads to the fact that I love how they've brought in voices from the game. And except for one character, one of the Fireflies from the first episode, all of the other voices that have been brought in and will be brought in, because someone pops up in this weekend's finale, I've heard, they have played different characters. They're not Joel's obviously not playing Joel.
Yeah.
But like the original actor that played his brother played one of the lieutenants in the Kansas City episode where Melanie Linsky's ruling over the fallen QZ. Like, her right-hand man was originally Joel's brother in the game.
Okay.
And, after this weekend, we'll be able to talk about someone else who comes in. But I do love that they've sort of woven that in as like this really neat thread of connection.
Yeah. They've done a really,
And
I don't know if I've ever seen a better adaptation of a video game.
even as someone who hasn't played through the full game, I can notice that, because like even those first couple episodes, getting that, the first 2 episodes are about as far as I've gotten in the actual game, and knowing that stuff and watching it take place on screen, that still got me. Like Joel's daughter getting shot in the first episode still wrecked me, watching it happen, knowing it was going to happen. And then they cut to that other kid who's in the QZ, and they take him out because he's infected.
But I mean, just
okay,
it feels like, and sorry to cut you off, usually with video games being turned into something, it usually feels like square peg, round hole, because the video game world version of it isn't big enough. It doesn't have enough backstory or setup to become a story. It's usually just point A to point B, here's your mission, watch out for the zombies, or, whatever it happens to be, right?
Well, yeah, because as much of a story as there is with Last of Us, which has always been lauded as a very cinematic game that has a point A to point B fleshed out story you could tell, the open-ended and sort of open-ended nature and grinding nature of a video game has always given you the chance to sort of fill in certain gaps if you wanted to, or do certain things and be part of the action. So turning that into a passive experience is something that's needs to be done very carefully.
Yeah.
And it's you have to walk that balance of either, to make sure you're not giving too much in either direction. You're not skimping out on details, but at the same time, you're not over-explaining and over-filling in those gaps.
It's not a video game, but it's kind of the same thing. It's like the Transformers series, from the TV and all that to Michael Bay, or when they try and do it with He-Man or G.I. Joe or something, where you have the cartoon or whatever, and then all of a sudden you need enough background to do a movie, and then people start filling in the blanks. It's like, oh boy, I don't know about this.
I mean, those were toy lines that were turned into actual narratives and stories. So yeah, you're especially
I know,
in an especially interesting place with that.
Yeah, I know it's not the exact same thing, but it was kind of same ballpark, I guess.
It is very much in the same ballpark, because you have these toys. There's only so much of a story that they put into them when they develop the lines and they develop the characters.
Yeah.
Then they develop those the original TV shows and movies. And then by the time you get to the Michael Bay movies in like 2007, Transformers was like, what, 85 that kicked off?
Yeah.
You've got all of this lore and all of these other subsections that people are going into those movies with. Like, we're finally getting a Beast Wars movie this year with Transformers Rise of the Beasts. How long have people been waiting for that? Ever since they announced that live action was happening.
Yeah.
Like there's just so much baggage that came with what they did do to develop that world, that when you got to Michael Bay, you had every criticism from, oh, Optimus Prime wouldn't do that, to, oh, wow, you took like an hour to get to your Transformers in your Transformers movie.
Yeah, but I got to see Megan Fox bend over a car.
That was a scene in that movie.
I like Megan Fox.
Transformers.
I would like to talk to her. I don't know what about, but she's someone I would legitimately like to talk to.
I have a feeling she would be a really fun interview, especially sort of being this removed from, she obviously became a massive sex symbol when she did Transformers. So sort of dealing with that coverage in the press, because let's face it, the early mid-aughts weren't exactly the best time to be a female celebrity. Especially if you were being covered by the press. So, I mean, it would be interesting to talk to her about that, and also just how everybody's sort of been flocking to Jennifer's Body like years after it came out. Like, there was obviously a dedicated fan base, but now that's a movie that's sort of coming back and getting more appreciation. And it would be really interesting to sort of talk to her about how she feels about that, and, was it always a movie that she felt was right for that, or was she upset that it didn't really get that in the beginning? And plus all of the Machine Gun Kelly stuff would, if she was open to talking about that, would be very interesting to sort of go into.
We somehow went from The Last of Us to Megan Fox and Transformers.
Well, because of all the lore.
Yeah.
Because of the discussion of adapting lore.
I know, but at the beginning of this, I never thought that we'd go from The Last of Us to Transformers and Megan Fox.
That's part of why people should be listening to us. You never know what you're going to get into on this show. And it's fun.
Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com joining me on the line to talk about movies and such. All right, let's jump over to Scream 6. We'll do some time traveling, and there'll be some sound effects and some pretty lights. Just stare at them. Time travel.
Don't forget the Oscars.
Ah, yeah. All right, backwards.
Whoops, we're right back where we started from.
Time travel failed. Okay, real quick with the Oscars and Chris Rock and stuff. Is the Oscars this weekend?
Yes, the Oscars are this weekend, the same night as the Last of Us finale, and I hate that for me because I'm going to be covering the Oscars because that's something you do. It's an event that, if you're in entertainment journalism, that's an event to keep track of. But I'm sad that I'm going to have to delay watching The Last of Us because I'm not going to watch it without my wife because we watch that together.
You know what's interesting about this Oscars?
What?
And this is coming from just normal, run-of-the-mill person in this world. I haven't seen shit about the Oscars this year.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, I've seen things here and there. I've seen people talking about it, but I can't remember the last time it was really a cultural staple, except for if something happened.
I can remember when we were doing the morning show and stuff, the Oscars would come up because, you got to talk about, this and this and this and who are the front runners. And, I could legitimately say the most I've talked about the Oscars or heard about the Oscars is talking to you.
Yeah, that's basically it. That's, we talk about it.
And I haven't seen commercials. I haven't seen ads. I haven't heard or seen articles, such and such needs to win, or, this is going to be robbery if they don't win, or, whatever have you. I just haven't seen anything about it.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just, I would never have known that it was this weekend until you said something.
Like there actually was a pretty funny bit of comedy that they did for announcing that Jimmy Kimmel was hosting, where they took the scene from Top Gun that they're doing the briefing with Maverick, and they got John Hamm and Charles Parnell back to play their roles again, and they're like, we went through a lot of choices before we went to you. And he's like, really? Don't tell me who. And they're like, oh, plenty of people. Steve Martin, Steve Carell, and that's just all the Steves. I'll have to send you the link, but it was actually a legitimately funny bit that I'm hoping indicates the tone of this year's show. Although, obviously, you're going to have to wonder how many slap jokes are going to get made. How early is the slap?
Oh, they're already. I did a search for the Oscars here, and everything that popped up was Jimmy Kimmel making slap jokes and not ready for violence, and he'll beat the S out of anybody that slaps him at the Oscars.
Yeah, that's the spirit. Yeah, should be going out guns blazing like that. That'll solve everything.
With that in mind, you did get the Chris Rock Netflix special this past weekend. I watched the part where he talks about Will Smith and Jada and stuff on TikTok. Very interesting stuff. Go ahead.
No, you first.
Oh, I was just going to say, one of my predictions kind of came through.
Which was that?
That you have a certain group of people going back trying to turn him into the bad guy in this situation for how he's responded.
I don't think anyone's going back to do that. I think that those lines were drawn very clearly the moment it happened, and those lines have held fast.
No, I mean, now,
very much drawn.
Like where I was saying last week when we talked about this, that he has to be very careful about how he goes about it because he could be almost turned into the villain in this. And
I remember that.
And there's been people about, how he's referring to Jada and some of the other stuff that they're going after him about.
Yeah, I think that was always going to happen. Just because if anything, those ranks have been even more tightly enforced where you have that split, the sort of split decision of, oh, yeah, he really handled it well, to, great, this is just old man yelling at clouds and more problematic humor, and you did not handle this well. And no matter what side you were on, I'm sure, I don't know if they've released official numbers, but I'm sure Netflix won.
Yeah.
Because this was not only released as a live stream, it was pre-recorded, but it was released as a live stream, so it was like an event. You couldn't just go to Netflix and watch it all at once or skip to the end. It was a live stream, so they were ensuring viewers But they also had a pre-show and an after show, which had like a whole bunch of comedians and guest stars that were together to sort of hang out and discuss the whole thing. And they kind of won that night. And but like you said, the moment that special ended, I went to Twitter to take a look and see what people had shared, what people were saying. And sure enough, like most of the stuff that was being shared was from the Will Smith bit. And I may have seen the whole thing, if not the relevant parts of it. I think it's like it's basically the last 10 minutes of the special.
Yeah. And you know what? He had some passion in that stuff.
Oh, he did. And that is definitely, that's what's really sort of pushed the needle in either direction when it comes to handling this. And apparently, I think there was rumored reaction that of Will Smith, where apparently he and Jada didn't watch it. But I think I'm just going to look at it very quickly because I'm not so, I don't want to get this incorrect because, you know, I obviously don't want to get sued by anyone or hurt anybody's feelings or misrepresent anything. But reportedly, someone had said, let's see, according to Entertainment Tonight, a source had said, Will is embarrassed and hurt by what Chris has said about him and his family in his Netflix special. He didn't watch it, but he had people tell him what Chris said. It's everywhere when you look online and on social media. So Will and Jada have seen comments about it.
Well, how are they not going to see?
Will apologize to Chris and would like for Chris to let it go. Will has worked on himself and he's banned by the Oscars for 10 years. He feels like that's enough and wants Chris to move on so that he and everybody else can too. That's something I kind of and then this continues because this is a big quote. Will is also upset that Netflix was part of this and thinks Chris insulting Jada again is below the belt. He's upset that Netflix gave Chris this platform to share these messages and thinks it's distasteful. Now, that's interesting because I don't know if it's still happening, but I could have sworn that at one point Will Smith was going to work with Netflix again and maybe on a Bright sequel. Like, I know I don't know if they fully canceled it or what, but I know that was in the works. But I kind of agree in the respect that I want it all to go. Like, I'm hoping Oscar night is the last time we really have to discuss the slap. I don't know if it will be, just because it feels like the final chapter would be Will and Chris in a room doing an interview together, burying it once and for all on camera, confirmed.
There's another 9 or 10 years of this because it's not going to go away because it's a ban for 10 years and it's going to come up around, you remember, Will Smith still got 6 years.
I think even that'll fade. To be honest, that's not the sexy part to people. What's really sexy is just the turmoil between Rock and Smith and what is being said and how people react. And just eventually that's what's fueling the fire here. And I just want it to stop.
I get it. The other thing that's going to bring it up all the time is if Will Smith has a movie that's up for an Oscar.
Yeah, and we already saw that, at least for this year, that was not happening, even though in any other year you would think Emancipation would be something that would automatically get nominations. It wouldn't.
Yeah.
It may not automatically win, but that seems like a movie that would be primed to get nominations, and that didn't happen.
So, Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com joining me on the line to talk about movies and such. We cool to do time travel now?
Yeah, I think we're good.
Wow. Time travel.
Ow!
Not supposed to put your arms outside the time travel vehicle.
I couldn't resist.
Time travel complete. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. It's Friday, and Mike Reyes has seen Scream 14 at this point. Have you not?
Oh, no, I've only gotten up to 6.
Oh, okay. My apologies.
But let me tell you, the things that I've heard about Scream 8, forget it. You're not ready for that. You're clearly not ready for that.
All right. So tell us about Scream 6. Obviously, the 6th movie in the franchise. I don't have any clue what's happening here because I have not seen Scream 3, 4, 5, or 6.
Well, that was the case with me before I decided to go and binge all of them in the course of like a day or so or a day or two to get ready for Scream 6, because I initially went to see this because of the 3D. So It's like, okay, there's a Scream movie playing in 3D. That excites me, but I haven't seen the sequels. So I just rewatched the first one and then watched all the others. This is a pretty solid sequel. And this is a pretty solid sequel to a pretty solid series. Like, even when things kind of dipped a little bit with 3 and 4, at least in my first viewing. They're still tight. They still they still adhere to the formula. They pull exciting twists out of their hat. And that leads us to Scream 6, where Sam and Tara, played by Melissa Barrera, and Jenna Ortega, are in New York. They're going to college, or at least I don't know if one or both of them is going to college, but they're both in New York after surviving the events of Scream 2022. For some reason, it's not Scream 5, it's Scream 2022. Another sly commentary on like renaming your new movie after the original when it's a sequel. But anyway, the sisters are in town along with two of their other friends that survived those events. They're all now known as the Core Four, and they are being hunted yet again by someone wearing a mask that I could have sworn at this point would have been outlawed by parents groups. Like you would have thought at this point in the Scream universe, at least in the town of Woodsboro, but even nationwide, you think there would be like a public moral panic of, we can't let people buy these masks because they're copycatting, and also the children are making fun of it. Someone think of the children.
Okay, so it works though, from what it sounds like.
Oh, it works so much. The humor's still there. It's Radio Silence, the pair of directors that took over starting with last year's Requel. They are interested in a bloodier, more vicious Scream. Like the ghost faces in the past two movies have been, it's not just a simple knife to the stomach. It's stab, 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 twist, stab through cheek. If you're a gore fan, you're going to love it. If you are a horror fan, you're going to love it. It continues to be as funny and as thrilling. And honestly, I think that Scream may be undervalued as a whodunit, because everybody talks about the horror aspect for the most part, but no one really talks about how these are pretty clever whodunits, like not very, like they don't go too deep, because obviously you need to save room for kills and jokes.
Yeah.
But there's pretty decent, like there's enough to keep people guessing every time, like, okay, who's the killer now? How are they connected?
All right.
And it's just a blast. And it's really fun in 3D. I wish there was some really good ghost face kills with a knife coming at you, but anytime like a gun's on screen, the guns are really like, they did a really good job of having those point out at you, especially that one kill you see in the trailer where Ghostface has a shotgun and has it like aimed down at some dude that aims right at you.
Oh, wow. All right. Well, cool. Scream 6 is a winner. We'll have to go see it this weekend. Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com on the line with me right now. Real quick, you did say that you had another movie that you had seen, correct?
Yes. Now, if anybody is a fan of Idris Elba's series Luther, Netflix has the first film that they're looking to make out of that series called Luther, the Fallen Son. And it's another interesting not a whodunit so much as a how catch 'em, I guess.
Okay.
Kind of like that. That's another term that originated with like Columbo. I think we talked about it in another episode. But Idris Elba is matching wits with Andy Serkis, who is a vicious criminal that has this big scheme and like this really big sort of, it's almost like a Bond villain sort of scheme.
Okay.
And like he has people everywhere. He puts Luther in jail in the beginning of this movie. And then Idris Elba then escapes prison, breaks all the rules, and is hunting this guy down. And, you know, it's him versus Andy Serkis. Cynthia Erivo's in there too. You may remember her from Bad Times at the El Royale or Harriet, among other films. She is also fantastic. Very solid thriller that has some set pieces that obviously you wouldn't really do with a TV show, or you'd love to do with a TV show, but usually don't have the time and budget.
Okay.
But they had it this time, and it is very good, pulpy, detective fun. Idris Elba, of course, just commanding. This is his Bond. This is something that, you know, he took himself out of the running not too long ago, because for years, everybody had hoped he would be a candidate to replace Daniel Craig or succeed Daniel Craig as James Bond. That never happened. And eventually he just got to a point where he's like, I'm kind of sick of people asking me about this, but, you know, I that's not for me. Luther is what I'm going to be doing. I can totally see why.
All right, cool. And that's on Netflix?
And it's currently available to stream on Netflix, but some movie theaters near you may be playing it.
All right, cool. We'll have to look that up. Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com on the line. Just to wrap up this week, we have two more topics I want to cover before we get going. Super Mario... Well, the Super Mario Brothers, we got a new trailer for that. We've been talking about trailers all week, so we might as well do this one as well. I have a weird I know there's some people out there that don't like Chris Pratt as Super Mario in this. I have an issue with it, but it's not the issue you think.
Well, what's your issue?
My issue is pick which Mario you're going to be. Because in the trailer so far, we've either gotten the, like, Chris Pratt, like, just talking, or it's in the weird Mario type. Like, there's been a couple different versions of it where it's like, I don't know what you're going for here, if this will make sense at some point, but, like, pick which Mario you're going to be.
I think it's always been that weird one, because even from the Mushroom Kingdom, Here We Come, it's like, okay. And now it sort of sounds like he's putting on a little bit of the Brooklyn in this trailer here. But that's kind of, I didn't care about that, because for the most part, this new trailer is action and color and big sequences and more of Jack Black's Bowser, which I 150% approve of.
Yeah. No, but I don't have an issue with that.
Like it's going to be a lot of damn fun.
No, that's the thing. It looks like it's going to be. It looks like a video game movie that's going to be done right. It looks good. I think there's going to be a lot of nostalgia in there and a lot of, hey, I played that game. Hey, I remember that level. Oh, Rainbow Road. that kind of thing. It's just that was the only. I don't have a problem with Chris Pratt being Mario. It just seems like they've had like 3 different versions of what the voice is supposed to be, and I just want them to pick one so I can get used to it.
Gotcha. I agree with you. It's like it needs to be something. It needs to have consistency.
Are you Brooklyn? Are you Italian? Are you just Chris Pratt voice? Which
you can
one?
Be both.
Just pick one.
You can be both. You can be Brooklyn and Italian. What's the matter with you?
I don't know. It just seems like it either goes, it floats to one of those in great amounts in the little bits we've heard. So, I don't know.
Oh, I got you.
So, anyways, Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com online with me right now. To finish up this week, I want to end with Star Trek Picard.
I had a feeling you would.
Oh, my.
Well, indeed, Captain.
The episode this week is pretty blanking amazing. And it's probably one of the better episodes of Star Trek Picard in general. But it's also, my only issue with it is it still floats in the area of sometimes there are things that they do with the story that don't make sense.
Yeah.
Like something will happen and it's like, wait, what? How? Well, if that's the line of logic you're using, how does this happen then? That kind of stuff. There's little things like that. This episode wasn't as much like that, but you learn more about Shaw, which he's becoming more likable every episode, the captain of the Titan.
Yeah.
We find out a big piece of his personality, and he gives one of the greatest lines in Star Trek I've ever heard. And the way he delivers it, like there's such hate in it that it's like, oh my God, this is awesome.
Oh.
Yeah, it's.
Do you want to share with the kids? Or?
Spoiler alert if you haven't watched the episode yet, but we find out that Shaw kind of hatred. It's kind of a straight lift from Ben Sisko, where he was at the Battle of Wolf 359 and he has survivor's guilt.
Yeah.
But then he says a line about Picard where he essentially says. And there's a setup to it, so it would mean more if you heard the setup. But essentially, a Borg's so deadly, they gave it a goddamn name.
Oof.
And just the way he does, it's such a gut shot to Picard. But also in that scene, Picard drops a really, and some people don't like it. I actually thought it was pretty awesome. Dropped a great F-bomb.
Oh.
Yeah. So.
That's exciting.
Yeah, and like I said, it's a really cool episode. It's very Next Generation in parts of it, and it has a part at the very end that's as much Next Generation as any part of Picard has been, and it was very cool.
Yeah.
So very cool stuff.
Pretty amazing.
It's a really, and you know what's great about it, and you forget how good of a director Jonathan Frakes is. He directed the episode last night. He's directed some of the best episodes of Picard, of Discovery, even I want to say he did Enterprise and a couple of the other ones, but just really like.
You directed First Contact.
And that's the thing that there's parts of last night's episode, it looked like a movie. It looked like a movie. Not a TV show, a movie.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it really is. So if you get a chance, watch Picard. It's pretty amazing. So anyways, that's going to do it for us this week. Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com. We'll have all his information at the bottom of the page. Mike, you have yourself a wonderful weekend, okay?
You as well, sir. Engage.